right then, you're in for a right treat today. We're going deep, deep into Prince bootlegs.
Ooh, exciting.
Those fan-made recordings, live shows and studio outtakes and all that.
All the good stuff.
Yeah. It's like a secret history of Prince's music, really, and trust me, it gets really interesting.
It does, yeah, it really does. These bootlegs give us this glimpse into his creative process, how he developed as an artist, and some absolutely electrifying live performances.
Oh, yeah.
That never had an official release.
Never saw the light of day.
Exactly.
You've got articles, reviews, we've even got a whole bootleg database to work with today.
Wow.
So let's dive in and see what we can unearth, shall we?
Let's.
Okay, first things first, let's set the scene a little bit.
Right.
When we talk about Prince bootlegs, we're talking about a phenomenon, aren't we?
Absolutely. Prince is considered one of the most heavily bootlegged artists of all time.
Oh, I can believe it. This article, Prince, the 25 Best Live Bootlegs. It mentions that Uptown Magazine, they actually tried to catalog every single Prince bootleg out there.
Ambitious.
Right. But they had to give up. They had to stop.
Really?
There were just too many.
Wow.
It's mind-boggling how many recordings are out there just circulating among fans.
It just shows the devotion of his fan base, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And the sheer amount of material, both released and unreleased.
Yeah, exactly, that he created. So bootlegs, clearly a big deal.
Huge.
In the world of Prince. But what about Prince himself? How did he feel about all this?
Yeah.
This unofficial sharing of his music?
It's complicated. Bootlegging sits in this gray area, doesn't it? Between fans wanting access and copyright concerns.
Yeah. Bit of a tightrope walk.
Yeah, it is. And Prince's stance, as with a lot of things with Prince, kind of evolved over time.
It did, yeah. There was that lawsuit against fan sites in 2014.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't there? Though, to be fair, he did drop it quite quickly.
He did, and shortly after that, he made quite an interesting statement. He said bootlegs were a way for fans to investigate his work.
Investigate. That's an interesting choice of words, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not just listen to or enjoy, but investigate. Like detectives on a case.
Yeah, quite. It suggests that he understood, perhaps even appreciated, the depth and analysis fans were applying to his music through these unofficial channels.
I love that. It really speaks to that connection he had with his fans.
Absolutely.
And this investigation, it can lead to some fascinating discoveries.
It can.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of discoveries,
yes,
I came across this bootleg collection. It's called What Purple Rain Could Have Been.
Ooh.
Now, that's titled to pique one's curiosity, wouldn't you say?
It certainly is. And it highlights another key aspect of bootlegs, these alternative versions of albums.
Oh, okay. So like different takes on the same tracks.
Yeah.
Or even songs that didn't make the final cut.
Exactly. Yeah. It gives us this look into the artistic choices involved in making an album, what was included, what was left out, and how those decisions shape the final product.
I could already picture myself going through all these bootlegs, like piecing together all these different versions, like an audio jigsaw puzzle almost.
Yeah.
It's like getting a peek behind the curtain of the creative process.
Precisely. And when it comes to live recordings, bootlegs become even more valuable.
Well, of course. Live is where Prince truly shone, wasn't it?
Yeah. And bootlegs capture that raw energy,
Yeah.
the improvisation, those moments of spontaneous brilliance you just wouldn't find on a studio album.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
And Prince, the 25 best live bootlegs, lists so many incredible recordings.
It does.
There's the Dortmund Show, 9th of September, 1988.
Yes.
Considered one of the best from the Love Sexy tour.
Brilliant.
Then there's that after show in The Hague, a month earlier, August, legendary for its intimacy and sound quality.
Oh, wow.
It's like stepping into a time machine and experiencing these shows firsthand.
Amazing.
Oh, and I have to mention the First Avenue show on Prince's 26th birthday, 1984.
Wow.
What a moment in music history, captured forever.
Each one a piece of musical history, like a time capsule.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm also fascinated by, studio outtakes and unreleased projects.
Yes.
All that material that he recorded.
I know.
That we've never heard. It's just...
It's tantalizing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The bootlegs give us this window into that hidden world.
It is, yeah.
Treasure trove of musical gems and unfinished projects.
Yeah.
Just waiting to be discovered.
Well, Prince bootlegs the complete list,
Uh-huh.
and unreleased Prince projects on Wikipedia.
Right?
They mention some real jaw-droppers.
Yeah, like what?
Like the Black Album, for instance.
Yes, of course.
Prince decided to withdraw it just before release.
I know.
But copies had already been pressed, so it became this massively sought-after bootleg.
A legendary tale.
It is. Then there's The Undertaker, originally released on VHS.
Oh, wow.
But now a hot ticket item as a bootleg CD.
Oh,
And let's not forget Sheila E.'s unreleased 1989 album.
so much musical history tucked away.
Right. And there's this abandoned 7-CD box set,
Oh, wow.
The Chocolate Invasion.
I've not heard of that one.
It's just, the mind boggles at the creativity that never made it to the mainstream.
It truly does. And it's the fans, ultimately,
Yeah.
keep these recordings alive.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about collecting these things, is it?
No.
It's a whole culture
It is.
of sharing and trading.
A community
Yeah.
built around this shared love
Mm-hmm.
of Prince and his music.
There's an anecdote in Prince the 25 Best Live Bootlegs
Huh?
about buying those first bootleg CDs at a record fair.
Right.
It really captures that social element,
Yeah.
that sense of being part of something.
Special.
Yeah, like people connecting over this hidden world of music.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant.
It's brilliant. You know, as we're talking, I'm struck by the sheer dedication
Oh, yeah.
it takes to not only record these shows, but to share them so widely.
Yeah.
I mean, it must have been quite the undertaking, especially in the early days.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine the technology involved back then.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
It wasn't as simple as pulling out your phone and pressing record.
Not at all. I imagine these early bootleggers lugging around like bulky equipment,
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to sneak recorders into venues.
Mhm. A feat of daring and determination.
It was. And then there's the distribution to consider.
Yeah.
Before the internet, it was all about tapes and CDs
Yes.
traded at record spares
Mm-hmm.
through these underground networks.
Like a secret society of music lovers.
It is a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
In a way.
Yes. It speaks to that desire to share something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
To connect with others who feel the same.
Absolutely.
Though, thankfully, the internet has made things
Oh, yeah.
much easier for fans to access these recordings these days.
It has. It's democratized access, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. Though, of course, it's also made it harder to track.
And catalog the sheer volume of material that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. The double-edged sword
Yeah.
of technology.
But even with easier access, there's still something special about those physical copies, isn't there?
Oh, definitely.
The artwork, the liner notes,
Mhm.
a tangible connection.
Yeah, a collector's item
Yeah.
that goes beyond just a digital file.
Exactly.
I imagine for a lot of fans, it's about preserving a piece of history.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. These recordings document not just Prince's musical journey, but also the energy of those performances,
Yeah.
the atmosphere in the crowd.
It's a snapshot in time.
Each bootleg a snapshot in time.
Yeah.
It's quite beautiful, really. But, you know, as much as we're celebrating these bootlegs, there's also this underlying tension
Yeah, there is.
with the official releases, isn't there?
Oh, undoubtedly.
Because the bootlegs exist, in part because there's this demand for material that isn't officially available.
Yes. Yeah.
Unreleased tracks, different mixes, live recordings that never saw the light of day. So, in a way, the bootlegs challenge this whole idea
Yeah.
of what constitutes a definitive
Yeah.
version of a song or an album.
They do. They offer alternative perspectives,
Yeah.
different glimpses into the creative process.
Which makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does.
Could the existence of bootlegs actually influence an artist's creative choices?
Oh, that's interesting.
Knowing that these fans are out there dissecting every single note,
Yeah.
sharing unreleased material.
It's certainly possible. Artists aren't immune to the feedback and reactions of their fans,
No.
even those expressed through unofficial channels.
And with Prince, who was so famously meticulous about his music,
Mm-hmm.
you can't help but wonder if he was aware of this whole bootleg culture
Yeah.
surrounding his work. Did he ever incorporate elements from those recordings
Mm-hmm.
into his later releases? Or perhaps, like, steer his sound in a different direction
Yeah.
based on fan reactions
That's an interesting thought.
to this bootleg material?
It's intriguing to contemplate, isn't it? That interplay
Yeah.
between the official and the unofficial,
Yeah.
the artist and the fan base.
Oh, absolutely. And for fans, it adds another layer of depth
Mm-hmm.
to their appreciation of Prince's work.
It does, yeah.
It's like having access to this secret map,
Yeah,
a guide to the hidden pathways of his musical universe.
quite. And this universe, as we've seen, is vast. and ever expanding.
Yeah.
It's a testament to his talent,
Yeah.
his work ethic,
Yeah.
and that enduring connection he had with his fans.
A connection that, in a way, continues to this day through those very bootlegs we're discussing.
Indeed. They're a reminder that music lives on, evolving and transforming through the passion and dedication of those who love it.
Well said. You know, it's interesting to think about the impact of bootlegging on the music industry as a whole.
Oh, absolutely. It's a topic that raises many questions and sparks lots of debate.
It really does blur the lines, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, when does a fan recording become something more?
Yeah.
When does it cross over from being just for a small circle of enthusiasts to something that has a wider cultural impact?
Well, there are certainly examples of bootlegs that have achieved a level of notoriety that rivals, even surpasses official releases. They become part of the musical conversation, influencing other artists, shaping the perception of a particular era.
It's like those bootlegs acquire their own sort of legitimacy, don't they?
They do, yeah.
Almost as if they become cultural artifacts in their own right. And it raises all sorts of questions about ownership, authenticity, the very nature of what it means for something to be released.
In a way, yes. And with bootlegs, the power shifts, doesn't it?
It does.
The fans become the curators, the archivists, even the distributors of the music.
Precisely. It challenges the traditional top-down model of the music industry.
It does.
Where the record label dictates what gets released and how it's presented to the public.
Exactly.
And with Prince, who is known for being so protective of his music and his image, it adds another layer of complexity, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. He had a very specific vision for how his work should be experienced. And yet there's this whole other world of his music existing alongside that official narrative.
It's like a parallel universe almost, isn't it?
It is.
One that's shaped by the fans themselves.
It is. And it makes you think about the evolution of fandom itself. The ways in which fans engage with music, the communities they form, and the influence they wield.
Especially now, with the internet connecting people across the globe, fans have a level of agency and a platform for sharing their passions that was unimaginable just a few decades ago.
Indeed. And it raises fascinating questions about the future of music.
Oh, yeah.
How will the relationship between artists and fans continue to evolve? What role will bootlegs and unofficial releases play in shaping that evolution?
It's a brave new world out there, isn't it? Full of possibilities and challenges. And speaking of challenges, perhaps it's time we turned our attention to the question of quality control when it comes to bootlegs.
Because while we've been celebrating the cultural impact and the fan-driven aspects, we can't ignore the fact that not all bootlegs are created equal.
Of course not,
Some are pristine recordings, others are muffled, distorted, even incomplete.
Right.
It can be a bit of a gamble, really.
Like panning for gold.
Yes.
Sometimes you strike it rich, sometimes you just end up with a handful of dirt.
Another apt analogy. And it's one of the reasons why those best of lists and databases are so valuable. They help fans navigate this vast and often unpredictable landscape.
They offer a starting point, a roadmap
Exactly.
to those hidden treasures. Well, maybe we should leave that thought with our listener for now.
A good place to pause, I think.
Indeed. We'll be back shortly to explore this a bit further. Right then, let's get back to it.
Okay.
So, we've talked about the sheer volume of Prince bootlegs that are out there. The good, the not so good. But how do you even go about finding these recordings in the first place?
Right.
It's not like they're sitting on the shelves at your local record store.
No, it's a bit more of a treasure hunt, isn't it? Back in the day, it was all about word of mouth, trading tapes at record fairs, knowing the right people.
Oh, I bet there were some legendary stories from those days.
There were.
Secret handshakes, clandestine meetings in dimly lit car parks.
Probably, yeah. But thankfully, these days, the internet has made things a bit easier.
Of course,
There are websites, forums, online communities dedicated to sharing and discussing Prince bootlegs.
The wonders of the digital age. So our listener is keen to start exploring. Where would you recommend they begin?
Well, a good starting point would be some of the databases and best of lists that we've mentioned.
Right.
These can give you a sense of the scope
Okay.
and variety of what's out there and point you towards some of the most highly regarded recordings.
Right, so you're not just wading through this sea of unknown recordings hoping to strike gold.
Exactly.
You're getting a bit of guidance from seasoned collectors,
Yeah,
people who've been immersed in this world for years.
absolutely.
I imagine there's a real sense of community amongst these collectors, isn't there?
Oh,
A
huge.
shared passion for preserving and sharing Prince's music.
Absolutely. They're like archivists, historians almost.
Yeah.
They're meticulously catalog recordings,
Great.
research dates and venues, share information about sound quality and set lists. It's quite impressive.
It is, yeah. It's quite a responsibility, too, wouldn't you say?
It is.
They're the guardians of this unofficial musical legacy.
They are, and it's a role they take very seriously.
Which brings us to another interesting aspect of all of this. The ethics of bootlegging.
Yes.
Because as much as we're celebrating the passion and dedication, we can't shy away from the fact that it's a legally and ethically gray area, isn't it?
Oh, undoubtedly. A lot of different viewpoints on this.
Yeah.
It's a complex issue.
Well, on the one hand, you've got fans who argue that they're simply sharing music that they love,
Yeah.
that they're not trying to harm the artist in any way.
And there's an argument that bootlegs can actually benefit artists
Okay. Yeah.
by introducing their music to a wider audience,
Right.
keeping their legacy alive.
Like a free form of promotion almost.
Exactly.
But then, on the other hand, you've got the copyright holders,
Yeah.
the record labels, who argue that bootlegging is theft, plain and simple, that it deprives artists of their rightful earnings,
Yeah.
and it undermines the official releases,
Yeah. Yeah.
the ones that the artist themselves has authorized.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one, isn't it?
It is.
Because ultimately it comes down to balancing the interests of the fans
Yeah.
with the rights of the artists.
Exactly. And finding that balance is never easy,
No,
especially in the digital age,
of course.
where music is so easily copied and shared.
It's a whole new landscape, isn't it?
It is, one that's constantly evolving.
It is, yeah. Well, I don't think we'll solve the ethical debate here today.
Yeah.
But perhaps just by raising these questions,
Yeah.
by acknowledging the different perspectives, we can encourage our listener to think about it a little more deeply.
I agree. A conversation worth having.
Absolutely. Now, let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about the actual listening experience. What's it like to delve into these Prince bootlegs?
Yeah.
Is it all crackling recordings and muffled vocals?
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or there's some real gems out there.
The sound quality varies wildly.
I can imagine.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
You've got everything from pristine soundboard recordings to audience recordings.
Yeah. Made on shaky cassette recorders.
Yes. The hiss and crackle of a well-loved cassette tape.
Exactly.
There's a certain nostalgia to that, isn't there?
Oh, there is.
Like you're listening in on something secret and forbidden.
Definitely. And sometimes that rawness adds to the charm.
Yeah.
It's like you're transported back in time to that specific moment
Yeah.
in a smoky club or a packed arena.
Like you're right there in the audience, feeling that energy of the crowd.
Exactly, yeah. But then, of course, there are bootlegs that are sonically stunning,
Of course, yeah.
recorded with professional equipment, expertly mastered.
Right.
These are the real treasures.
Yeah.
The ones that allow you to fully appreciate
Yeah.
the nuances of Prince's music and the brilliance of his live performances.
It must be thrilling to stumble across one of those.
It is.
It's like finding a hidden diamond in a dusty attic.
It is. Makes all the searching worthwhile.
So, to our listener out there, don't be put off by the thought of dodgy recordings.
Oh, there are some real gems out there, and with a bit of patience and guidance, you can find them.
Absolutely. And remember, it's all about the music.
Yeah.
Focus on the artistry, the passion,
Yeah.
the sheer brilliance of Prince, and you won't be disappointed.
Well said. Now, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we?
We have.
From the history of Prince bootlegs to the ethics of sharing.
Yeah.
From the thrill of the hunt to the joy of discovering these hidden musical gems.
Absolutely.
So, perhaps it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
I think that's a good idea.
We'll be back shortly to delve into some specific examples of Prince bootlegs
Oh, excellent.
and share some of our favorite discoveries.
Until then.
Right then, let's get back to it. I must say, I'm really enjoying this exploration of Prince bootlegs.
Me too.
It's like opening a window into a whole other dimension of his music.
It is a secret world that most people never get to experience.
Exactly. So, to give our listener a taste of what they might find on this musical treasure hunt, let's talk about some specific examples of Prince bootlegs.
Sounds good to me.
Brilliant. Now, where to begin? There are so many to choose from.
I know.
I'm quite partial to live recordings myself.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing quite like hearing Prince in his element,
No.
feeding off the energy of the crowd.
Oh, I agree. The bootlegs capture those moments beautifully. The spontaneity, the improvisation, the sheer joy of performance.
Precisely. So tell me, what are some of your favorite live bootlegs, the ones that really stand out for you?
Well, one that immediately springs to mind is the Dortmund Show from September 9th, 1988.
Oh, yes.
It's considered one of the best recordings from the Love Sexy tour.
Oh, yes. That's a legendary one.
It is.
That makes it so special.
The sound quality is superb for starters.
Right.
You can hear every instrument, every nuance of Prince's vocals.
Right.
And the performance itself is just electrifying.
Yeah.
He's on fire, ripping through hit after hit, throwing in some extended jams and improvisations.
I can practically hear it now.
Yeah.
The crowd going wild, Prince leading his band on this musical journey.
It must have been an incredible experience to be there.
Yeah, it must. But thankfully, thanks to this bootleg, we can all get a taste of that magic.
We can.
Absolutely. Are there any other live recordings that you'd recommend to our listener?
So many.
I bet.
But if I had to choose just one more, it would have to be the after show at Part Van Troje in The Hague.
Yes.
Recorded just a month before the Dortmund show.
The Hague after show.
Yeah.
I've heard whispers about this one.
Yes.
What's the story there?
Well, after the main Love Sexy tour show in Rotterdam, Prince and the band decided to play a surprise gig at this small club in The Hague.
A secret gig. How exciting.
It was, and the atmosphere was incredible. It was a much smaller, more intimate venue than the arenas he was used to playing.
Yeah.
Which allowed for this real connection between Prince and the audience.
I bet the energy in that room was off the charts.
Oh, it was. And the music.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Wow.
The band was loose and relaxed.
Yeah.
Jamming and experimenting, playing a mix of hits and deep cuts.
It sounds like a dream come true for any Prince fan.
Yeah.
A chance to see him up close and personal, playing in a small club, letting loose and having fun with his music.
Exactly. And thankfully, someone in the audience had the foresight to record the show so we can all experience it vicariously.
A true gift to posterity. Now, apart from these legendary live recordings, there's also a whole world of studio outtakes and unreleased projects to explore, isn't there?
There is indeed.
Yeah.
And this is where the bootlegs really shine a light on Prince's creative process.
Yeah.
We get to hear songs in their early stages of development, different mixes and arrangements, even entire albums that were shelved for one reason or another.
It's like being a fly on the wall in the studio.
Yes.
Witnessing the birth of these musical creations.
Yes. Exactly. One of the most famous examples of this, of course, is the Black Album.
Ah, yes. The Black Album. The stuff of legends. Can you remind our listener about that one?
Of course. So in 1987, Prince was working on a new album.
Okay.
A darker, more experimental follow-up to Sign of the Times. He had the album pressed and ready for release.
Wow.
But just a week before it was due to hit the shelves, he had a change of heart.
What happened? Why this sudden change of plans?
Well, the story goes that Prince had a spiritual epiphany.
Right.
And he felt that the album was too negative, too dark.
Okay.
He decided to withdraw it from release.
Wow.
Much to the disappointment of his record label and his fans.
A bold move.
Yeah.
But I imagine it only added to the mystique of the Black Album.
Oh, absolutely. The fact that it was withdrawn, that it was so close to being released, but then vanished into thin air, made it even more sought after. Of course, copies had already been So it wasn't long before bootlegs started circulating.
And I'm guessing those bootlegs became highly prized possessions among Prince fans.
Oh, they did. And for good reason.
Yeah.
The Black Album is a fascinating record.
Right.
It's raw, funky, experimental. It shows a different side of Prince, a darker, more introspective side.
It sounds like an essential listen for any serious Prince fan. Proof that even his unreleased material was brimming with creativity and innovation.
Absolutely. And it's just one example of the many treasures
Yeah.
that you can unearth in the world of Prince bootlegs.
Well, you've certainly piqued my curiosity.
Good.
I'm already planning my own Prince bootleg treasure hunt as we speak.
Excellent. And I have no doubt you'll find some amazing things.
I'm sure I will. Now, before we wrap things up, I'd like to touch on something we mentioned earlier. The ethical considerations surrounding bootlegs. It's a complex issue.
It is.
And one that deserves careful consideration. So perhaps we could leave our listener with a few things to think about.
Sounds like a good plan.
Right. First and foremost, it's crucial to remember that bootlegs are, by their very nature, unofficial recordings.
Yes.
They haven't been authorized by the artist or the copyright holders.
Right.
And there are legal implications to consider.
That's right. And while some people may argue that sharing bootlegs is a harmless act of fan devotion, it's important to recognize that it can potentially impact an artist's income.
Exactly. Especially in today's digital age, where music is so easily copied and distributed.
Yeah.
It's more important than ever to support artists by purchasing their official releases.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that bootlegs don't have their place.
No, of course not.
They can offer a fascinating glimpse into an artist's creative process, preserve live performances for posterity, and foster a sense of community amongst fans.
Yeah.
But it's important to approach them with awareness and respect.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on. So, to our listener, we encourage you to explore the world of Prince bootlegs with an open mind and a critical ear. You might just discover some hidden gems that deepen your appreciation for this musical icon.
Happy listening.
And on that note, we'll bid you farewell.
Bye.
Until next time, dear listener.